1, 2, 3, 4. Hey there, hi there, ho there. This is Ralph Hayes Jr., RH Jr. Reality Check, coming to you live over the internet through a series of tubes known as the Boob Tube of YouTube, bringing you yet another contribution to the litter strewn across the information highway. Spleen Squeezin. Oh yeah. It's been a long time. Da, da, da. I don't know the rest of the words. I've done a little thinking over my life. Is spend all my time watching reviews and arguing about mass media junk, franchises and comics and movies. Just getting in huge raging debates over various franchises and stuff, and where they're going and what they're happening to. And by and large, my life could be summed up as somebody taking a war hammer and attacking a hot fudge sundae. Hey, YouTuber. Hello. Was just starting to get worried about you. I was worried about me too, because I've seen my reflection. I'm just disturbing. Yeah, but I'm doing okay. I'm doing good. Well, I'm not doing great. I could be doing so much better. A little tired right now. Did the trip to the doctor, wound care center, etc. yesterday. Good news is I got my check deposited while I was out, so now that government check is now in my bank account, and just gives me a warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that I got it in there. And so yeah, don't know what I'm going to do with it. I'm probably going to end up using it for incidental expenses. It comes down to that, because it's if I spend it on one big thing, like get the roof patched or anything like that, that'll be the point where I'm suddenly, all my other income suddenly disappears, and the expenses come in. So I think I'm just going to keep it for incidental expenses. Things like lot rent, trash, electricity, internet. It's a Rim Dog. It's a YouTuber. It's Jackson Emmons. Who the heck is Jackson Emmons? I don't know who Jackson Emmons is. I'm going to say hello anyway. Hello, Jackson Emmons. Welcome aboard. Oh, this is bad. This is bad. I've got like one swallow of Dr. Pepper left. I tried to buy. I wanted to buy. While I was out the other day, I wanted to buy myself some. Bought a few grocery odds and ends. I wanted to buy myself some Monster energy drink. A 10-pack. That'd get me through a couple of weeks. Just caffeine buzz, energy. Look, I'm at that age where caffeine is a substitute for will to live. But for some reason my credit card, my check card has been acting funky lately, and I'm still not sure what I did wrong or right, but I ended up taking the Monster energy drink off the card, and then my purchase went through. And so, and now I'm sitting here, oh man, I can't get no Monster energy drink. I said, and all I've got is the last drops of a 2-liter of Dr. Pepper. I tell you, okay, I'll say this much, talking, whether Monster, everybody's all freaked out about, Monster energy drink. Oh, energy drinks are bad for you. Everything's bad for you. Everything. They determined that oxygen, you remember how everybody talked about antioxidants? You know what that was about? Because they found out that that oxides, oxygen, basically makes your body rust. The oxygen, it accelerates. The more oxygen you have in your system, the faster you age. So breathing is bad for your health. So there you go. Daniel Meyer. I think God put him on it just to make me feel bad. Because, man, you ought to look at that guy. He's a friend of mine on Facebook, and he started out. He was almost as fat as me, and since we met, he has shrunk down. He just he just lost a ton of weight. He actually had to go in, and have the skin removal surgery. And he is looking sharp. He's older than me, but he's looking sharp. He's looking good. And he's of course he's doing the thing that everybody on a diet does. Goes on and lectures everybody about how they you can do it too. And I look right back at him and go, I don't care. I think the problem is you get people like that. You got to understand, even before Daniel started this whole diet and exercise thing, he was an extraordinary individual. I'm talking, he was one of those man of all season kind of people. He and his wife were renovating a Victorian mansion a Victorian house that they live in. That's the old Vic. I owe him several commissioned comics for that. He rides cross country motorcycle. Long range. He's not on a dirt buggy. Just over the hills. His idea of a little ride is to get out his Goldwing motorcycle and go get burgers in the next state. That's his idea of a short little trip. He's also runs a business. He works in tech. I'm not exactly sure what he does for the business he works for, but he also started a business on the side, which, well, sad to say, he had to sell the old Coppola. But he's one of these guys that and he's one of these guys that just has mountains of gumption, and whatever he sets his hand to, he does it. And I don't really think that people like him realize just how different they are. How'd he do it? How did he lose all that weight? How did he lose all that weight? He ate less and he exercised more. That's all it boils down to. All those different programs and and exercise whatevers, they're the same thing basically. I noticed you can go. This is interesting. I know you can go on just about any exercise or diet program, and you will experience at least some sort of success. I've noticed that whether you're talking anything from paleo to vegan, you will find people that swear up and down by it. I've come to the conclusion of, well, first of all, it's highly variable. It's very individual. Some people burn calories one way, some of them burn it another, and I think it's just a matter of just exercising the willpower to take care of yourself to that degree leads to positive gains. At least at first. Over the long term, some of these diet and exercise programs are a joke or even a nightmare. But and some of them are, self-defeating eventually. But still, making any effort seems to yield at least a little bit of result. Or we may just be paying closer attention to what we're doing. It's a simple matter of being on a diet makes you pay attention to what you put in your mouth. So there you have it. Anyway, you ask him, if you want to talk to him, Danny, he's usually by here. He's also on, go to the Old Victorian and scope him out. And I believe it's theoldvictorian.com. Anyway, but I don't think, you got these, these inspirational speakers that come around, a guy with no legs that walked across country on the stumps. He's supposed to be, and the rest of us are going, dude, you don't realize how far out on the end of the curve you are. You got these people that graduate from college at the age of 12, Or my father is one of these. He's a little bit of an overachiever, I'd say. He knows how to. Let's see. He knows how to play the violin, the mandolin. There's a story behind the mandolin. Boy, is he mad about that. My mother bought him a mandolin, a genuine mandolin, for his birthday, and some pimple-faced hosebag stole it when we were in the middle of moving from one home to the next, and he has never gotten over that. But anyway, he knows how to play the guitar, the violin, the mandolin, the keyboard. He plays, organ, piano, anything with a keyboard. He can also play a few tunes on the recorder, if I remember correctly. And he also used to assemble and he used to build rebuild old used computer systems for a hobby. He does all the repairs around the house, plumbing, electricity, everything. And automotive repair, you name it. When he was a boy, he used to be able to walk up. He used to be able to walk up into the hill with nothing but a pocket knife. He would peel a switch, weave the bark into a bowstring. You can do that. It's seriously. You can make bowstring out of the lining inside a bark. He would make a bow, and then he would cut down some switches and make some arrows. He would walk he would walk up in the hill with a pocket knife in his pocket and walk down out of the hill with a full bow and arrow set. He was a Boy Scout. He was one of those Boy Scouts that the other Boy Scouts said, dude, lighten up. But he's always been like that, and I can't imagine how disappointed he must be sometimes looking at me, because I'm a we can pay a plumber to fix that, can't we, kind of guy. I'm that guy. Most of my childhood I was one of those. Could you start the orange peel for me, please? Yeah. Oh my! Don't know. Is he depressed? No. No. He's cranky. Not my dad. Daniel Meyer. He's got some reason to be grumpy. Half the reason the majority part of the reason that he had to go on this whole marathon, Iron Man weight loss exercise thing was because the health insurance through his job. Basically they're screwing him over. They basically expect him. He's in his how old is he? In his 50s, and they basically expect him to have the body mass index of somebody in his 20s, or they penalize him. And he's got his wife. His wife is diabetic, and his entire life basically has been an uphill fight between the insurance companies, incompetent doctors, and dietitians. and having to go to I expect he has a sizable chip on his shoulder at this point about the whole deal. But he's mighty proud of how thin he's gotten, and he deserves to be. Good work, man. Yeah. But I don't know where I was going with this. I had a destination in mind, but I lost the map, and I have no idea what road we're on. So, uh, uh, I am a man who was. If I start talking about myself, I start talking about my own defects, my own shortcomings, and I start getting. I start getting down in the mouth. I get depressed, and anybody who's listened to this show knows if I don't watch myself, it turns into it shows a mortifying experience. Like it's got to be like watching that kid, the Britney Spears kid, have a breakdown. Leave Britney Spears alone, and it's got to be that awkward for some people at a certain point, because that's one of the things that makes it hard for people who go through depression. One of the things that makes it hard for people who are going through depression or anxiety or emotional problems or just plain problems, period, whatever you want to call them, whatever label you want to give them, or whatever umbrella you want to stick them under. The big thing is that one of the things that you feel bad about is that you feel bad about dumping your misery on other people. We're taught from a very early age, don't be a crybaby. Don't sit around pouting and feeling sorry for yourself. What is that supposed to mean? You're just sitting around feeling sorry for yourself. Well, nobody else is. What is it supposed to mean? You're miserable and you're accused of, being, what is that? What is that supposed to mean in any meaningful context? But when you have emotional problems, and this is why people pay therapy. This is why therapists make so much money. This is part of the reason that therapists make so much money, is because people pay them to sit there and listen. Because going to their family or friends feels like dumping an undeserved burden on them. But you go to your therapist and you sit there on the couch or whatever, and they can't get bored with what you're talking about. They can't get annoyed with you for you having all these things to dump on them. They're professionals. They're professional listeners. And we would rather pay for a stranger to listen to us than deal with the guilt of having other people that we know and care about listen to us for free. In part because we don't want to saddle them with it, and also because we don't want to listen to the brilliant ideas they have for solving all your problems. 9 times out of 10, when somebody moans to you, 9 times out of 10 they just want you to sympathize. They don't want you to come up with a solution. I'm guilty here, guilty of that myself. This is why I'm dysfunctional. This is why I've not grown any since my teens, I don't think. But anyway, I don't know. I don't know where I was going with the show. I don't know. I keep telling myself, I'll draw. I'll do all this stuff that I need to do in a little bit. It's always in a little bit. You ever notice that? It's always in a little bit. And as soon as I wake up a little bit, as soon as I'm not feeling so hungry or so tired, but I always feel tired or hungry all the time anymore. It's real drag. That's why I'm probably addicted to Dr. Pepper and energy drinks. It's not that I drink energy drinks all the time. It's just like once in a couple of months. Once every 2 or 3 months, I'll buy a 10 pack of Monster Energy and spend a week working my way through it. Because it's the closest I come to feeling like I have energy. It's the closest I've come to feeling inspired. you know. What else is on the plate? Let's see. Let me see. Bit of fan art. I received. If I can just remember where I put it. Oh, yeah. Here we go. Just had to find the right server or whatever. Okay, let me. Guy sent this in. Corey G, he called himself. This is his rendition of Riley Coyote from my fanfiction Coyote. Now, if you can look closely, you can see some pencil sketches in the background there. This is marvelous work. It's professional quality drawing, and he obviously did some sketching and stuff like that. Let's see here. Now, let me expand it a little bit. See if I can't. As you can see, he did a lot of work on this. Preliminary sketches. This is the more anime look he had in mind for Riley. And it's not. I'll say this. It's not what I picture Riley looking like. But for all that, it's not this quite the same. I can't seem to get quite the idea across to people that Riley doesn't look like a cartoon. He looks like a werewolf, is what he looks like. Particularly skinny. Think of the. Have you seen that animated video, Magnum Bullets? Sort of like that, only not quite as skinny. But everybody insists on. Everybody goes, "Oh, it's a crossover with Warner Brothers," and I'm like, "No, it's not." But still, I looked at this, I'm impressed, and I love that he put all these, all the the little prelim sketches that he did in the background. I'm trying to move this. Trying to shrink it back down to normal. To fit in the screen. Anyway. It's a minor irritant to me. I won't pretend otherwise. It does bug me. Is that I can't seem to. A lot of people can't quite seem to get that Riley's not. Riley is not supposed to look like a cartoon. If anything, he looks like somebody. He looks like Well, he looks like he's been cell shaded. You know, Ralph Bakshi style when he uses his power. This is an action shot of him without any oobleck coating, as it were. That's supposed to be one aspect of his personality, is that because he's a heteromorph, as they call him in the comics, he basically looks he looks like a were-coyote, and between the fangs and the claws, he looks he can, if he want, he can look rather intimidating. But he plays up his goofy side to put people at ease. If you'll remember from the chapter where they had the battle trials, you know, he pulled some serious scare the crap out of you stuff with his powers, you know, in the middle of combat. So it's not a matter of him, you know, looking, you know, automatically looking goofy and having to roll with it. It's his prerogative. It's his choice. He wants to be the goofy, friendly neighborhood hero. He wants to be likable. He wants to make people feel at ease. He wants them to be at ease around him. He wants them to laugh. But if he wanted to, he could be an underground hero and a seriously scary, badass one. Just because of the nature of his physique and his powers. And I don't think I'm getting that point across quite yet this early on in the story. It's part of the reason that he has, you know, a mental block about, when people have issues, it's rarely just one particular outstanding thing that causes it or that contributes to it. You know, it's like, oh, when I was a child, I was scared by somebody in a hat. That's the reason I'm scared of hats now. I realize that now, and now I'm no longer scared of hats. You know, it's not that simple. There's a lot of intertangling, you know, in any personal issue, there's a lot of intertangling things that affect how people think and how they feel and how they emote. Okay, you consider all these things in Riley's past. Riley is of Native American descent on both sides of his family. Now, name one of the prominent figures in Native American religion. I'll give you a minute. Think about it. Work it over. Debate amongst yourselves. Can any of you figure it out? That's right, coyote. So, first of all, he lives in a world of quirks, of super. He lives in the world of My Hero Academia. Back home in America, the fact that he was born looking like a figure out of Native American mythology kind of put some odd pressures on him family-wise and culturally speaking. The fact that he is the fact that he is a predator in physique. He's got claws. He's got fangs. He's got uh, you know the usual instinctual baggage that comes with being a therianthrope, as they called them. Uh, and in his childhood, he had, back when he was very tiny, when he was like 3 or 4 years old, he had gotten in a few tussles with other kids, and using his fangs and claws in the fight, biting and scratching, he had done them some serious damage, and it had freaked him out. Which is part of the reason that he is, and his, and more importantly, his parents, his mother in particular, freaked out about it. And that left a rather solid impression on him as well. You also have the general prejudice in My Hero Academia against non-human morphs. Oh, that's an established canonical thing. The manga, which is way ahead of the anime, the manga is established. There is there are underground political groups. Basically, the manga version of Humanity First, that think that any non-human quirks should be exterminated, and anybody that has them along with it. So there is, you have to figure there is a good bit of prejudice against, animal people like Riley. He also has to deal with the fact that he's, despite having lived in Japan for quite some time, he is going to be a fish out of water, first of all, and second of all, he's going to be the foreigner, no matter what he does. Japan, well, like many nations, but particularly Asian nations, Japan is very insular and it's very tribal. That's one of the things most people in America don't understand, and that's what people outside of America don't understand about America. You see, most nations, they're also tribes. The people that form the nation of, say, France, it was a it's a geographic accident that united them into a nation. Rivers, mountain ranges, so on and so forth, oceans, isolating them into you're a German by birth and by bloodline long long before you're a German by nationality or geopolitical policy. You're a Frenchman by birth and lineage and bloodline long before you're a Frenchman by nationality. That's the same, especially Japan. Japan being an island nation makes it ever so much more so. You're Japanese by bloodline, birth, and the fact that you were born on the island. Integrating into that, America is a nation built out of integration. We are a nation that was created based on common shared values and principles, as we established in our Constitution. We had all these disparate colonists came together, and to form a more perfect union, etc., etc. We created a Constitution that outlined our social and cultural and ethical and moral values as a people. This is why anybody from a guy out of the heart of Africa to a guy who lived on the North Pole to somebody from Timbuktu can come to America, give their oath that they abide by the principles of the Constitution, and they become an American and are American unapologetically. Because we are a nation formed of principle rather than bloodline. Now you got some doinks out there that, I can trace my ancestry back to the Plymouth Rock and to the Mayflower, and some other guy in the back of the room. Yeah, well, my ancestors were waiting on shore for you. Big frickin' deal. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, he comes from America. His parents are unapologetically American and Native American, and they've been dropped into, and despite having lived there for over a decade, he's still, he's always going to be the Gaijin, the foreigner. And he's never going to be Japanese, no matter how long he lives there. And if he marries a Japanese girl, his children will be only it'll be his great grandchildren. It'll be 2 or 3 generations at least before his offspring will be regarded as native Japanese. So he's got that issue going for him. And he's also got the issue that he is a believer. One might say he's a believer in the value of laughter. And not just in the abstract sense. He takes it rather seriously. Consider this: in Native American culture, in many tribes, there is a role called the Heyoka, Heyyoka. It's not something. I don't believe it's something seen in Southern American tribes, but it is the Plains Indians do have it. It's called the Heyoka. A contrary, it's a sacred clown, basically. In Western culture, it's a well-known fact that one of the most politically influential. One of the most politically influential positions you could have outside of being a member of the royalty or nobility was to be the court jester. Because the court jester could say things right to the king's face that nobody else would dare. In fact, there's a record, the jester for Henry VIII. He was a very honorable and noble man. He on several times he used his position as a court jester to plead the case for someone in dire trouble before the king when nobody else could get to him. And he saved many men's lives that way, and spared a great number of people a great deal of suffering. Researchers have, we've known for years that researchers have found that laughter will help in healing. on the negative side, it's also one of the most potent, satire is one of the most potent weapons that a truth speaker can have in any society. In fact, satire has brought down empires. It's one of the reasons that even our screwed up copyright laws still recognize the right to use material for satirical purposes, for parody. Parody, we live in a culture that legally protects parody. That's a profound thing. And that's what makes these people, that's not funny. Those people are dangerous. Because the reason they're shouting, that's not funny, is because somebody is saying something. Somebody is making a joke that pokes them in someplace unpleasant. And they want that awkward, painful, embarrassing, hilarious truth to be silenced. If you haven't guessed, this is my personal view on the value of humor as well. Not just Riley's. It's where Riley's getting it is from me. Anyway. And this is why he clashed so hard with Aizawa in the first few chapters when they met. Because Aizawa, well, he's a character who's got a big old stick up his butt. There's a fan fiction I've been following. It's called Friendly Foreign Exchange Student Spider-Man. Is basically the Marvel Cinematic Universe Spider-Man. Instead of dying at the end of Endgame, he got, he did die at the end of Endgame, but for some reason, he's reincarnated in the My Hero Academia universe and ended up as a student in UA. And his joking manner and his machine gun patter and his banter and his joking manner drives Aizawa up the wall, because Aizawa, being a product of his society, thinks that because Peter Parker is joking around, that he's not taking anything seriously. He doesn't realize that Peter Parker is joking around. First of all, to calm the fears of the public, to throw his enemies off guard, and also to cover his own fear. And Aizawa can't grasp that, and it reached a point where, finally one of the school jerks pushed him too far. Bakugo at the sports festival basically insulted the Avengers to Peter Parker's face. Now you gotta understand is that the last thing that Peter Parker had seen was him and his the last thing he had seen before he himself had died was the heroes he had fought alongside losing against Thanos crumbling to dust. And Bakugo basically told him that any hero who lost a fight was worthless. And Spider-Man and Peter Parker went out there, faced him on the arena, and basically tore Bakugo a new asshole. And you see, anybody who's a fan of Spider-Man knows that all the villains that Peter Parker has ever fought, the old Spider-Man, the new Spider-Man, doesn't matter. They all says it's one of the ongoing things is it's bad enough when Spider-Man shows up cracking jokes and making smart remarks, but they said the scary even the Rhino, a living tank, is saying the scariest thing he ever saw was Spider-Man, dead quiet, coming in, dead serious, no jokes, not cracking even a smile. Because every villain in the Spidey comics knows that if Spider-Man is that pissed, he's going to frickin' hospitalize you before he stops. And the fan fiction Aizawa watches Spider-Man take apart Bakugo like he's a cheap toy, and realizes that he'd been wishing, he's sorely regretting that he wished he could take that wish back. That he seriously regretting he'd ever wished he would see Peter Parker take things seriously. Coyote's the same way. Riley's the same way. He also knows that deep down he has if he ever let himself get pushed too far, he could be absolutely frightening. How savage he could get. Oh, yeah. Let's see here. I'm currently trying to put on my bandages again. I change these things so often. Go through ointment like nobody's business. People really do not like the fact that I do not like Aizawa. They really don't. They really don't like that I have a grudge against Snape from Harry Potter either. Man, maybe I do take it to extremes. I think I'll admit that much. But when people push, when I point out that Snape, you know, he didn't. Snape did nothing in the series, either in the books or in the movies, to justify his quote unquote redemption arc at the very, at the absolute very end. And and I point out in the books, he was a horrible human being. And people are like, "Oh no, he wasn't. He was a noble, tragic hero because he loved Lily Potter." And and blah 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 blah, and I have to point out for the umpteenth time, no. I tend to lean, when I get blowback like that, I tend to lean, instead of changing my mind, I tend to lean a little harder on it. Call that a failing on my part. But I don't retract anything I said about Snape or about Aizawa either, for that matter. I'm like, take a step back. Okay, my problem with Aizawa, okay, My Hero Academia, these kids, in order to get in, they took a practical exam. They took a practical exam where they were expected to battle killer robots, okay? They literally put their well-being on the line, their physical safety, and possibly even their lives if they made a mistake, just to get in the front door. And the first thing Aizawa does is that he threatens to on the very first day, not even one lesson, he threatens to expel one of the students based on how they throw a ball. That is terrible. That is terrible. It's terrible teaching. It's capricious, fickle. And don't try and, oh, well, there was another time where he expelled an entire class. I'm like, that's supposed to make it better? The guy behaves like one of these fruitcake teachers you hear about in universities, just does batshit insane things and expects his tenure to hold up forever, Can you imagine what that would do to a kid? You literally, and especially in Izuku's case, he literally shattered the bones in his arms and legs to save the life of a fellow student. In this ridiculous ass practical exam, and his homeroom teacher informs him, throw this, if I don't think you have potential, I'll throw you out on the first day. And what the hell? If you aren't going, what the hell? You're not a person capable of comprehensive thought. And they say, and they try to solve. You point this out to them, and they try to solve. Oh well, he, that entire class he expelled, he let them back in later. Yeah, great. Leaving them a permanent black mark on their record, and in Japan, that is some serious shit. You can have your entire life destroyed. Your career as an engineer, forget. You crossed the wrong elementary school teacher. And you can find yourself shoveling shit in in Shinola for the rest of your life instead of working at an engineering table. There are people out there that as one of my readers pointed out, is there is, the what are the numbers? I would have to let me see. It's something like 14 per. Let's put those murders and suicides together. Um, America has something like 7 or 8 murders per 100,000 people. I forget whether it's 10,000 or 100,000. 7 or 8, and a suicide rate of like 6 per that same number. While Japan has a homicide rate of like 3 or 4, and a suicide rate of 10 to 11. They have less violent crime. They just have more self-violence in their society. They've swapped it out. In fact, they've come off worse than America. Suicides and homicides together, they're worse in that regard than America is. The reader that pointed this out got banned for saying something quote unquote racist. Dear Sufficient Velocity administrators, that's not racist. That's political. It's also an established mathematical fact, you pink frosted snowflakes. Good grief. We're giving you a ban because you were hateful. He wasn't hateful. He was pointing out a demographic statistic from the nation of Japan. The truth, facts are hate to those who hate the truth. Anyway. In a nation like Japan, where high school education is ruthlessly cutthroat and high stakes, where your entire future can hinge on it, where people are expected literally to work themselves to death in their own office, where overwork is so status quo that people falling asleep at their desk is considered a sign of diligence. That's how fucked up they are. And let's call it what it is, fucked up. Can you imagine, you take this kid who literally bled and fought and sacrificed and slaved and struggled just to get through the front door. And the very first day, you expel them because you decided today was a day for you to be a bitch. And you were trying to teach them a lesson about being serious. How high are the odds that you're going to see a couple of them flying off a rooftop? Oh well, he let them back in. Great. Within the 2 or 3 days, it probably took him to reverse that decision. How many of them would have opened up their wrists by then? People like Aizawa because he had a moment of cool where he fought a bunch of villains single-handed. But he's an ass. He's an ass as a teacher. And the instant you point this out, 100 otaku come riding over the horizon, they come riding over the next ridge, bound and determined to save their waifu. And don't kid yourselves. I know what waifu means, and I ain't misusing it either. How could you say that about it? How could you say that about Izura? How could you say that about Eraserhead? Eraserhead's cool. Blow me. There, would you like that? As I've had to deal with too many bullies in the course of my life to make apologies for any of them, regardless of what position they're in. Yeah, the problem with arguing, well, Snape was undercover for Voldemort. What the problem with that is because he was, from book one, trying to claim he was being undercover for Voldemort. He's pretending to be, Voldemort's loyal man, so he didn't rise suspicions among the Death Eaters and Slytherins. Horseshit. The problem with the strategy of being an asshole to cover your the problem with being an asshole to keep from blowing your cover is that from book one, Harry and the others immediately suspected Snape of being up to something nefarious and continued being suspicious of him the entire series. If you are behaving in a manner so mustache-twirlingly awful that an 11-year-old can be asked, could you point out the Death Eater in the room, and they all point at you? Hey, guess what? That's a lousy cover. He acted that way because he was a dick, okay? He acted that way because he was a spiteful, bitter man who never admitted for even a moment that he was responsible for his own suffering, or that he had caused the suffering of other innocents. He didn't care. He didn't care. And I pointed this out before. If it had been Neville, if Voldemort had decided that Neville Longbottom was the one to kill rather than Harry Potter, Snape would have remained a Death Eater. You see, Snape was fine. With the racism, he was fine with that. That's why he joined. Black magic, hey, he was into that too. Rapes, murders, arson. Didn't seem to bother him too much. The fact that his boss was going to kill a baby, no problem, except when he found out that the baby in question belonged to the woman he coveted from high school. Then he got twitchy. And even then, he didn't switch sides. He tried to play both sides against the middle. And how did he act afterward? How did he act afterward? I'll tell you how he acted afterward. He spent 17 years sadistically bullying every student that came through his class, except for the Slytherins, of course, giving them all a shit education, and particularly bullying the orphaned child of the woman he claimed to love. That's not the behavior of a tragic hero. That's the behavior of an unmitigated, unrepentant ass. No, I didn't mean Stark. The fan fiction uh, uh, friendly friendly foreign exchange student Spider-Man. Uh, it ends at the end of the next to last Avengers. It starts at the end of the next to last Avengers movie. Where everybody's crumbling to dust, and Peter Parker, I don't feel so good, and he turns to dust in Tony Stark's arms. That's where it picks up. Instead of waking up in the hereafter, he wakes up in a rooftop in Japan, and sees Mount Lady battling that giant shark. Mount Lady and Kamui Woods battling that giant shark guy. It's supposed to be word of God is that it's supposed to be one of those weird funky time splits. This Peter Parker is never going to go back to the Avengers universe. Somehow it alternate time and blah 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 blah. But even though the Marvel universe reset itself and went on its way, this Peter Parker is stuck in Boku no Hero Academia. And the last thing he saw was Thanos winning, and his fellow heroes crumbling to dust, and then he felt himself crumble to dust. Yippee-ki, yippee-yi, yippee-yi-yay. Excuse me. And it's one of the issues in the story. It's one of the is that basically Peter Parker is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. He basically saw what he thought was the end of his world, of his universe. He felt himself die. And he's got all that baggage to deal with. And there's only like 2 or 3 people in all of the story that he is that actually know even the major part of his story. He doesn't have anybody to talk to, and he flinches every time somebody snaps their fingers. He when the first time he sees Shigaraki, whose power is to make things crumble to dust, he just about loses, just about unravels right then and there. And so on and so forth. And it's something he's been dealing with since the beginning of the fan fiction. And it's only in the most recent chapters that Mount Lady has actually sat down and talked with him about it. See, because Mount Lady ended up basically becoming his foster parent. You know, uh, it's a good read. It's a really good read, and I recommend it to anyone. I hope they update real soon. I'm dying to see what's the next chapter. Please, I'm real. Elan T-Bug. I've heard. Same old bullshit. More social justice snowflake bullshit laws. Please, I'm really not in the mood for it. Not today. So tired of hearing it. So tired of hearing about it. So tired of learning about it. You don't learn anything new. You don't hear anything new. It's as tired as the Sci-Fi Channel. It's old. It's boring, and it's never going to get any better. Anyway, give me a second. I'm going to go offline for a second. I gotta wrap something here. Just a second. Okay, I'm back. Just had to wrap that bandage and then. Okay, interesting question. You're a good question. Just a moment. Just a minute. Just got a just stupid chair. Okay, you're a hero suddenly dropped into a new world and witness a hero villain fight in progress. How much time do you take to decide which one to help? Well, I think the actual approach would be first you drop in. The first thing you do is determine that innocent civilians are out of harm's way, and act to move anybody out of way that might be in danger. In the time it takes you to do that, eventually the villain will inevitably do something that endangers the public. Big clue right there, as to who to punch first. So that seems like the most straightforward approach. Seems the most practical and sensible approach, rather. Go for the one that's putting people in danger, and it should, at the level of superpower fight, it should be very obvious very quickly who is endangering the public. Now, okay, My Little Pony stuff. Who do I think should be paired with who, and what would their kids be like? Okay, Discord and Fluttershy, or Discord and Celestia? No. How about Discord and none of the above? Now, I like the fan fiction Earth and Sky. Look it up. Look it up. It's a magnificent story, magnificent fan fiction. Uh, it's a big one too. You will be satisfied. You will read. This in a world of fast food writing. This is a smorgasbord. You know what I'm saying? It's a buffet. It's a great read. But in Earth and Sky, there was a little one-shot prequel that set things up. It's supposed to be like several. This was written before Twilight Sparkle became a alicorn, and I assume she's still a unicorn at this point. But it's set up. Fluttershy ends up with Big Macintosh. And I have to say, yeah, that makes sense to me. Big, strong, quiet guy with a small, shy, quiet, girl. She, she's small, she's shy, she's skittish. He's calm and steady and reliable. That's a perfect match. He's something she can lean on. I said, yeah, that's perfect. And let's see. Fluttershy ends up with in the story. Fluttershy ends up with Big Macintosh. Pinkie Pie ends up marrying Caramel. Caramel, the one he's supposed to be the hired help at the farm. He's got a three horseshoe cutie mark, and he has a tendency to lose things. And Pinkie Pie, at one point, Pinkie Pie points out that maybe that's what his cutie mark really means, because he's got three horseshoes on his flank instead of four. But in the course of the story, Applejack hooks up with Soren, and let's see. It's been a long time since I read it. Spike hooks up with a lady dragon, and who else? Who all else got married? It turns out, one of the other things is that Silver Spoon. You remember Silver Spoon? Diamond Tiara's nasty little sidekick. She ends up married to Snails, of all people. It turns out that Snail's cutie mark is basically because he's sort of like Fluttershy, except for all the creepy crawly things, snails and bugs and lizards and snakes and all he basically grows up to be the crocodile hunter, except for snails. But anyway, he grows up to be a friend to all the creepy crawly animals, and it's only told in flashback, but Diamond Tiara and Silver Spoon had a really hard falling out at their school graduation, and it was Snails intervening. Actually, Snails saved Silver Spoon's life. She fell into a river, and he fished her out, and they became a couple. And he grew up to be this big, burly swamp. He grew up to be this big, burly swamp dwelling pony, and and they ended up happily married. And Diamond Tiara ended up marrying, God help us all, Prince Blueblood. It seems that Prince Blueblood, ran out of dough. He had to marry a rich girl to save his finances, and he ended up making the horrendous mistake of marrying Diamond Tiara. And he has been drinking himself into dissipation ever since. Well, anyway, this is just the stuff that's establishing the start of the story. You've done a digital of Bayleaf in his end gear, and working on an Alicorn Cutie Mark Crusaders. If you've done some artwork, sure, go ahead and send it to me. Remdog, you say I did it right with Leo. I'm actually drawing a blank. Leo who? Oh! Lionheart from The Rise of Darth Vulcan. Is that the one you're talking about? I love superhero stuff. I really do. I love superhero universes. That's how I got suckered into reading Worm. It's a superhero story, a superhero universe. I got a lot of people there's a lot of people out there that write superhero novels and stuff. They're all trying to deconstruct the hero, the superhero world. I'm like, dude, I wouldn't say you're beating a dead horse, guys, but at this point you've worn it down to the hooves. That's what passes for creativity anymore. A bunch of yelling, screaming people standing in a circle around, standing in a circle. Beating a vaguely horse-shaped stain in the ground with sticks. No, you're not really clever for writing a world where superheroes are all jerks, and there's an awful conspiracy that it's on it, and it's not cool anymore, and it's really and everything sucks, and the protagonist finds this all out while he's blah 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 blah. Ugh. Now, you want to read a good reconstruction of the of superheroes? Pick up an anthology of Astro City. I repeat, Astro City. It's a comic book line. It's a comic book series. It's basically set in a sort of a, I don't know whether you call it Golden Age or Silver Age comic book world. It's and it's marvelously uplifting read. Let me tell you. What I have done with the, I don't know what you mean by impame. Impame. The impame of man. Oh, the empire of man. I had to scan it. Just okay. You need to slow down on your typing there, Eli. You just you're skipping entire syllables. Yeah, Warhammer. I admit, I have a tendency to take personal offense at things I shouldn't really bother about. I found out about Warhammer, and I'm like, something about Warhammer just flew all over me. Just, dozens of little things. Where nobody is good, everybody's evil. The universe sucks, and and basically the Empire of Man. A theologian reading this would look at it and say, basically basically they've got the Empire of Man being run for, thousands of millennia by the Antichrist. That'd be the walkaway impression you'd come up with. Coming from somebody like my background, Anyway. What do you think? A sorcerically powered super psychic who abolishes all religion and has the entire universe worshiping him? It's terrible, really. It's the Imperium of Man is basically religion as written by a snarky 14-year-old atheist who wants to aggravate his old Sunday school teacher. Oh. But it just just hit the whoever wrote it was obviously looking to offend somebody. I'm sorry. I'm rebooting the page here. Just trying to get it working smoothly again. Have I seen TTS? I don't know what TTS is. Hmm. Hugged to death by Big Green. I have no idea what that is. I don't understand the references you're making, guys. Back up. Just back that up a couple of iterations. Just sort of back it up a few steps and try again. Ugh. Just saying, just saying. Trying to put these bandages on. It's a rather involved process. When I'm at the wound care center, it takes 2 nurses to bandage my legs because of the size they are. So you can imagine what it's like for me all by myself. There we go. Not perfect, but nothing is. If I push the button, there to push the button, there to push the button. Where's the live stream button? What might be getting updated, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I've been writing a few words here, a few words there, trying to draw a bit here, trying to draw a bit there. It's just one of those. It's just been one of those stretches where nothing seems to want to flow. So you're reduced to basically, at a certain point you get to the point where you're reduced to just chipping away at stuff. I'm wanting to finish another chapter of the Great Alicorn Hunt because of that's the one I've been getting the most chitter chatter about. People want to hear the next chapter. I have to go back and read the last chapter just to see. I've had to go back and reread the story, get to, try and get the vibe and get the last few read the last few chapters, see where I left off. The story of Darth Vulcan, Vulcan, not Valkin. Vulcan, like the Greek, like the Greek god of the forge. Vulcan. But I'm a little tired of everything right now, really. It's just that I've been plotting out the end game for Darth Vulcan for so long. It's just reached a point where it's you got to trudge along. It's a trudge. I will trudge. I will finish it someday. But trying to get, I've gotten through points A, B, C, D, and now I'm trying to bridge E to F, and the Great Alicorn Hunt has a slightly different problem. For the most part, it has been up to a certain point, up to a certain level. It's been a journey without a destination. I sort of have an idea for an ending, an ending, but it's still nebulous. I don't know why we do this. I haven't seen a fanfiction writer yet that doesn't do dozens and dozens and dozens of stories and only half finishes most of them. I don't know. That seems to be plague of the age, Unable to bring the plane in for a landing. Some projects you have to end. You have to just stop because there's no way to complete them satisfactorily. Others, they torment you to your dying day. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. You know, and but you can't figure out how to. I've reached a point where I've got so many things that I need to do that no matter what I'm doing, I need to be doing something else. So I end up doing nothing. Oh, biggest pain in changing to those bandages is bending double to do so. Yeah, it's like watching a walrus try to do yoga. You know. You want to know what happened to the characters in Darth Vulcan? Yeah, I know. I could. I'm kind of tempted to tell you my plan for the ending. How it's all going to end. I will tell you this much. Darth Vulcan isn't exactly going to lose. I hope that thought. I hope that thought stews for a while. I'm sorry. I'm okay. I've only been at this less than 2 hours, and I'm already running out of juice. I'm already. Mm, there's one thing I could wish for, one thing I could have, one thing I could pray for. If I can't be healthy, I wish I could at least have my energy back. I struggle to sleep, I struggle to wake up, and I struggle to do anything, and then I go back to bed and start it all over again. And don't get old, guys. It's a trap. If you can, take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Don't let yourself get to the point where you need a drastic intervention just to be moderately healthy again. Don't be like I did. Don't do like I did. Don't do like I've done, like I am. Because the deeper the hole is, the less likely you are to be able to climb back out. You know. I don't like, I really need to stop right now. I need to stop before I start thinking about, and start dwelling on my past again. Dwelling on my future isn't too much more fun either. But this is why people lose themselves in the momentary things of the present. Because they can't change what they did and they can't deal with what's coming. Sometimes it's not even their fault. It's the only strategy I've ever really had. Is it the only reason I've gotten as far to the future as I have is because I've spent most of my life living in the moment, living for the present. The only reason that there is a Tales of the Questor comic, because for years before I started it, I looked at it and I thought, I'd love to write a comic, but it's so much work. I would never get it done. And then I looked at the comic strips. I've just been doodling these comics, and I've got hundreds of them. Just doing one or two a day. Well, this was back when I could do one or two a day, and without my brain shutting down on me. And I looked at it. I realized, if I don't have to do it all at once. I just have to do it one page at a time. And don't worry about planning for the future has never worked for me, because every time I try to plan for the future, I get overwhelmed. And in fact, the only thing that keeps me going these days is because I never let myself look at how much I have left to do. Because if I did, I'd just give up hope. If I count it a triumphant day when I manage to get a little bit done. Haul one bag of trash out, finish one drawing, write one page. I wish I could get back to where I had those victories a little more often. What was your favorite part in your books, or the funny thing in your books? What is a favorite part in my books? Well, I've got lots of them. I mean, I drew, I wrote and drew them all, so I've got a ton of parts that I like. currently, one of my favorite parts is one of my favorite currently is a couple of pages from Fellowship of Heroes, my rather abortive attempt to create a superhero comic. It's the pages with Jackal Lantern, rather another short-lived villain. You know, the idea being is that Jackal Lantern shows up in town. He's some two-bit crook who got splashed with acid, and now he's got a pumpkin orange skull face and green hair, and he's bonkers, and he's decided that he's going to become the world's most famous criminal. And so he decides to start his rampage of looting, killing, and plundering in Cedar Springs. That's the hero's hometown. And he's standing there in the bank, while his minions round up the money, and he's ranting and raving at the ceiling about how all famous they're going to be. The screens will swim with blood, and it's etc. And then he hears click, 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 and he turns around, and everybody in the bank has drawn a gun and has it pointed straight at his head. The premise being is that Cedar Springs is one of those odd little towns that you hear about in the news that made it mandatory for every adult citizen to have a firearm. And Jackal Lantern's career ends right there in a hail of lead. I've been posting that in a couple of different places. People talking about the Joker, and I pointed out, okay, I'm sick of the Joker. You know why I'm sick of the Joker and all the variations and rip-offs of him? I'm so sick of them. Because every generation they have to up the ante and make the Joker, more horrific, more horrible, more evil, more, more malevolent, more unstoppable. From what I understand, the current round of Batman comics is implying that there are 3 different Jokers running around, and that the Joker is actually a curse on the city of Gotham. As long as Gotham stands, there will be a Joker to torment it. And, and I'm like, oh, give me a frickin' break. You've turned him into Pennywise, you cheap rip-off clowns. And look, let me put it as crazy is not. I want to round up all these writers. I want to round up all these comic book writers, sit them down, and read them the riot act. And the first line is, crazy is not a superpower. It doesn't make you more unpredictable. It doesn't make you more cunning. It doesn't make you more, it can make you more dangerous, but only to the unsuspecting. And it can make you more dangerous only in the sense that a dog that has rabies is dangerous, but it is not a superpower. A crazy person is not capable of becoming a criminal mastermind, leading hundreds of equally crazy criminals on a crime spree through Gotham City. No. Insanity is a dysfunction. It makes you less competent. It makes you less potent. It makes you less powerful. And it makes you more likely to either be caught or to end up eating a hail of lead from pissed off civilians. So, enough already. The people that write Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, one of Daredevil and Spider-Man's nemesis. Okay, them I can respect because the Kingpin is not crazy. In fact, he is incredibly level-headed. cunning, smart, conservative, and he runs the criminal underground in Marvel, New York, like like a Switch watch, like a Swiss watch. So, you know, that's a good villain. Lex Luthor, not so much. Because for all there's a little too much batshit insane mixed in with Lex Luthor. He's a little bit too much like the Joker. You want to get my respect. Make villains. Make villains that are actually competent, not just psychotically evil because crazy people scared you the last time you visited the insane asylum. That can't be helping the mental health industry. Having crazy equals psycho. That can't be helping it at all. Crazy equals unstable psycho killer. In fact, the people trying to blame villainy on insanity, there's a problem with that. The percentage of criminally violent people in the mental institution population, the general population, the percentage is the same as that as society at large. Food for thought, isn't it? In other words, crazy people are no more likely to go out and commit crimes, especially violent crimes, than the average person. They're more liable to harm themselves or accidentally, harm another person. But the concept of criminally violent, criminally insane, it's a lot more exotic than most people and rare than most people want to think about. We'd rather believe that people like Hannibal Lecter are, mentally disturbed. What's frightening is that they could be perfectly rational and stone cold evil at the same time. You're good at writing how to save. Okay, that last thing you typed, Eli. Uh, how would I save and what would I do it? That doesn't that. Try again. Type it again. Type slowly. I really don't understand what you said that last time. Are you saying what worlds would you save and how would you do it? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I'm waiting for an answer. Is what I'm doing. It's just Gotta wait for you to retype your questions. What worlds? I have no idea what to think of that. So, uh, world of discomfort. What worlds would I save? Give me some examples. I don't know. You mean what settings would I save? What what franchises would I save? I'm not sure what you mean. It's how would I save the current comic industry? That's what you're asking? I have no clue. Azeroth. How would I save Azeroth? Uh, yeah. Well, the question is from what? Every expansion of World of Warcraft at the World of Warcraft, Azeroth has been under a threat from a different menace every time. So I'd say the fundamental problem they have can always be traced back to some involvement with the Forsaken. The further along they go, the more obvious it is that uh, uh, the Banshee Queen is behind more and more of the catastrophes befalling their planet. But it's never one thing. It's one expansion. It's the Burning Crusade. The next it's the Shah. The one after that it's a giant dragon named Deathwing, and the one after that it's the Legion. The demons invading from space, and the one after that, it's some sort of Lovecraftian horror from below, and it gets old. It's every expansion, it's a new problem. So it's not like Azeroth has any one outstanding issue that needs to be resolved. What would I put in like the world of how would I fix Warhammer 40k? Basically, I'd take the whole thing. I'd take the whole setting and chuck it in a dumpster. There's nothing. There's no room in the setting of Warhammer 40k to actually save anything. It's paper thin veneer to justify selling loads and loads and loads of little pewter statues to obsessive compulsive collectors, so they can put them out on table sized maps and have play wars with them. The world building is just 14-year-olds. The world sucks and everything's at war. There's nothing there worth building with. Every detail of Warhammer just needs to be scrapped. There's originally the reason that the Space Marines wore those great big heavy battle armor suits. It wasn't to make them badass. It was to protect them from the radiation from the engines of their starship. That was how spectacular the setting is. Okay, I think I've just about used up uh, my energy and time. I've been at this for a little over 2 hours. I'm gonna go ahead and call it quits for the night. Oh, I didn't fix Worm. I beat the hell out of it. uh, anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night, and I'll see you again next time. Not sure when, not sure where, not sure when, but we'll do it. And y'all take care, okay? Good night.